All right, hey everybody, Sean Reynolds and Ken Weeb from Sportsnet here. We want to do a special pop-up episode because every once in a while some big news happens and we like to be there when the big news is happening. And Ken, we're going to break this down. We've been talking lots about the potential for an extension for Adam Lowry with the Winnipeg Jets. You were going to go through a real fact-based breakdown of how things were working. I was going to get really wildly speculative. I took a couple of psychology courses when I was in University of Manitoba around 98, 99. And I was going to get into the head of Adam Lowry and give you all the reasons why he was going to sign. But then we thought, we're journalists. We can do better than that. Why don't we go hear it from the horse's mouth? So let's do that. Let's hear it from the horse's mouth as Adam Lowry has agreed to come on Kenny and Renny and tell us all about his extension. Welcome to the show, Adam Lowry. We appreciate you coming. First and foremost, congrats on being a long-term Winnipegger for the next 5 years. How are you feeling?
Oh, I feel great. Today is one of the happiest days, certainly of my NHL career. So I'm thrilled to be staying in Winnipeg. I'm thrilled to be locked up long term, and I'm looking forward to the future of the Winnipeg Jets. I think it's extremely bright.
What does a contract negotiation look like during a pandemic, Adam?
You know what? I think I would just get updates every couple of days, kind of where it was at. It was one of the ones that it seemed to happen fairly quickly. I think both sides wanted to make a deal and wanted to make something that worked. And, fortunately we were able to accomplish that. Yeah, I told Craig Oster, my agent, right away that, Winnipeg was at the top of my list. I wanted to stay. I wanted to be a Jet long-term. So, that was certainly important. And then I one of the things I was really looking forward in this next deal was a term that I could be extremely happy with and comfortable with in 5 years is certainly that. And I'm really looking forward to the next 5 years as a Winnipeg Jet.
Adam, we know how much of a grind of a season this has been for you, so we truly appreciate you taking the time to join us here. But what was it like going through, I know your agent does a lot of the heavy lifting, but what was it like having to balance that with already probably the biggest meat grinder of a season that you've ever experienced as a pro?
Yeah, it was interesting. I think at the same time, though, it was extremely exciting knowing that, Winnipeg wanted me. They kind of value me as a player, and they were looking forward to and trying to be able to keep me. And I think that really helps, and to know you're valued, to know you're wanted, to know they feel that you're an important piece of the organization. It's one of those easy ones. Some days you're a little not nervous but anxious to see where the progress has been made and see when it's going to get done. And my agents and Chevy and Larry, they did a great job. They didn't really bother me on game days, and Craig would update me on off days and things like that, and let me know where it was going. And fortunately we were able to kind of settle on the numbers, settle on the term, and here we are today. So I'm thrilled. I know my family's thrilled, my girlfriend's thrilled to be staying in Winnipeg. So it's a happy day for us.
You touched on it during the Zoom call when I asked you about it, but why is it important to have the opportunity to potentially spend your whole career in one place where some people might look at the opportunity to test out the grass maybe being greener somewhere else?
Yeah, I think knowing the organization, knowing how well we were treated top to bottom, from the ownership, from the management staff, from the coaches, and the players, the medical personnel, our equipment managers, everyone from this organization is top notch. I think that first and foremost, it makes it easy coming to the rink every day, knowing you're surrounded by good people that are committed to winning, people that are committed to getting better. And that was important to me. I've got a lot of very close friends on this team. I love playing in the city. It's fantastic. We have such a strong fan base. This organization, I feel, is really close to on the cusp of doing great things and potentially winning a Stanley Cup. And I wanted to be a part of that, and I wanted to be a part of that long term. So there's certainly some interesting things that can happen in unrestricted free agent. It's always exciting to have new things to be able to maybe experience a different city. But for me, Winnipeg was at the top of my list. It's where I wanted to stay, and unfortunately, we were able to make that happen.
I'm always so interested in the conversations that happen behind the scenes, because you mentioned some of the guys that I take a look in Josh and Kyle Connor, Nick Ehlers, a little bit longer term guys, and you've got Blake and you've got Scheif. So many of the guys in that, the heart of the team, and you're right there, the beating heart of it. How often did you guys have conversations with each other, trying to sell each other on the idea of sticking around? What's that brotherhood like, and how many conversations do you have about trying to keep this thing together?
You know what? I don't think there's a ton of conversations trying to sell guys on Winnipeg. Once you get here, once you get in the organization, I think the guys realize, how well we're treated, how well of a fit everyone kind of seems to fit in with this team. The makeup of our team is great. It's easy coming to the rink. We're always joking around. It's a fun place to be. I don't think there were many sell jobs per se. It's more kind of the joking. Are you going to get it done? Like, is it going to happen kind of thing. So I'm thrilled to have it done, and I'm thrilled to be sticking around with those guys, and hopefully we continue building where this organization is going, and we take another step forward here.
How did you come to the term, Adam? I mean, sometimes, because of the uncertainty, with you being so involved in the return to play and with your role as the player PA rep in Winnipeg, was there any temptation to try to go shorter term to maybe see where things were at in 2 years, in terms of a flat cap world that you're currently living in, or why did 5 years make the most sense to you?
For me, I think it's the security. It's knowing that I have the chance to be here for 5 years. It's knowing that I'm so comfortable with the organization. I'm so comfortable with my role here. I know what's expected of me. I know I'm going to go out on the penalty kill. That's a big part for me. I know what's asked of me every night going on the ice, and I kind of just know what to expect. I think you always obviously incur some risk if you go shorter term. There's potential for serious injury. There's things like that go into it. But I look at the longer I could stay here, the longer deal I could get. It was more beneficial to have that certainty, to know kind of where I'll be, to know that potentially and hopefully these next 5 years are all in Winnipeg. That was huge for me. So it's certainly, you look at, there's new TV deals coming. There's going to be fans returning to the stands, and maybe the cap was going to go up in a couple of years. But for me, the risk and to turn down 5 years, it's incredibly difficult. I'm thrilled to be a Jet, and that's one of those things that we came to kind of agreement on. Being able to get to that length, and once it wasn't that difficult to get a deal done.
Adam, clearly comfort plays a role. Knowing your role on this team and playing a very effective role. I'll never forget a former teammate of yours when we were interviewing him one time. Michael Frolik said to us that it's every player's dream to go to unrestricted free agency, and that always stuck with me. And I wonder for you, what part of you is going to think, and I don't say dwell, but what part of you is going to think about that unknown of what it would have been like to go out and kind of get that moment where you had the rest of the league making their overtures to you and kind of showing to you what the rest of the league thought about you?
Yeah, I'm not going to have any regrets signing this deal. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled to be part of this organization. But like you said, people, it would be interesting going to unrestricted free agency, kind of having certain teams try and woo you, try and entice you to going. And, I talk to Brandon Tanev all the time, and you see what happened with him going to Pittsburgh and him signing that 6-year deal. And I see kind of, his cult following that he's developed there with the long hair and him seeing ghosts in his headshots and, and things like that. And you always wonder, well, what could happen? What's it going to be like? And maybe there's something like that out there. But going into this, I told my agents first and foremost, I wanted to stay in Winnipeg. So, for me personally, it's one of those things that it would have been cool to, get there and see what it's like. But, I can ask some other guys what their experiences are like. I don't feel like I'm missing out too much.
Adam, family's obviously important to you, and you're in such a unique situation with having your dad on the coaching staff. I know you called it the cherry on top a few minutes ago. What has the experience been like having Dave as an assistant coach, and having both your parents in the same city with you during an NHL season?
Oh, it's been terrific. I think it's been a lot more seamless than I thought. I wasn't sure how the interactions were going to go. If it was going to be a little awkward. I think the first couple of days it might have been a tad odd having my dad around and calling him coach or Dave or or what have you. But no, it's great. I think being able to interact with him, being able to see what he brings, and see some of the knowledge that he kind of can impart, not only on me but the other guys, seeing the work he does, on our penalty kill and with our defensemen with HUDs, and it's just seeing the way he interacts with guys. It's great. It's nice having my family here. It's nice being close to them. I get to see them a lot more often, so I'm very fortunate. It's one of those things that like I said earlier, it is kind of the cherry on top. I don't think if he wasn't here that was going to impact my decision. I wanted to stay in Winnipeg, kind of right from the get-go. I think last deal I signed, and it was going to go 1 year into unrestricted free agency, and sure there was a chance that I could leave, but ultimately I think I knew in the back of my mind that I wanted to stay, and I wanted to stay long term. So it's been great having him on the bench. It's been great having him in the room. I think he's done a good job kind of mixing and gelling with the coaching staff and with the players, and he's been a pretty solid addition for us.
Adam, Kenny and I are both born and bred Manitobans, so we embrace the stereotypes that come with being Manitobans and Winnipeggers. And I think by now, the amount of time you've been here and being here for another 5 years, we can throw out any pretenses that you're not a total Winnipegger. I'm wondering, what kind of characteristics have you adopted as a Winnipegger? Do you cut a lot of coupons before you go shopping? Can you feel the snow coming in your lower back or anything?
I think I just appreciate the sun shining and the snow melting just a little bit more. But you know what? I haven't been able to adopt the honey dill. I know that's big with the fingers, things like that. But you know what? Maybe that'll come. I know fish fries are huge, for all the fishers. I'm not a huge fish guy, so still haven't adopted that. But you know what? I'm proud to be in the Middle Province. I'm proud to be in Winnipeg. I think it's a great place to be. The people here are fantastic. I know my girlfriend will probably try and impart some more Winnipeg wisdom on me and, try and make me even more Manitoban. But, growing up in Calgary, it's nice and close there. It's an easy flight or quick drive, whichever one you really want. There's only a couple turns. So, it's great being here.
What's the focus now just for the stretch run, Adam? I mean, playoffs around the corner. You've seen the North Division a lot now. How do you feel like your team stacks up as you sort of try to build for a playoff run?
Yeah, I think these next 12 games are important and, really honing in on what we're trying to improve. There's been certain things. I know the one game in Ottawa, we came out flat, but take 4 of 5 on the road. And really have grinded it out the last month and a half on the road. That's important. You need to be able to win away from home. And, it's important that we continue to iron out some details and some kinks in our game. And you want to reach the playoffs at, the peak and kind of peaking at the right time. And, I think that's going to be one thing we look at, after this game against Edmonton. We have a couple days of practice, which is a little unusual for us, where we're not used to having a couple days in between games. So, try and use those days to, really tighten up some things. I think we have the firepower, we have the back end that, if we, and the goaltending, that if, we play together as 5 and, we play tight and, we limit some of these chances that we give up once in a while, I think we're going to be a tough team to beat. We can kind of play any style of game, and that's what's exciting. You look at our top 6 and the guys and the contributions they've made this year. You look at the way the third and the fourth lines have been playing, and top to bottom, that depth in playoffs is going to be huge, and those are difference makers. And you look at our back end, I think they've been steadily improving this year, and over the last little while we've really kind of almost rounded into form. Our special teams are clicking, and Helly and LB kind of every night, even if you don't have your best game, you're going to have a chance to win. So that's kind of what those next 12 games are going to look like. You try and make sure your game's right, make sure your team's game's right, and you go into the playoffs feeling good and feeling confident about where your team's at.
Adam, really appreciate the time. As you can see from our comment section here, people are entirely happy. Although you almost lost a couple when you were trashed in the honey dill sauce, so you may want to pull the reins back on that a little bit. Hey, I just wanted to say, Adam, we really appreciate you coming on. Congratulations, ecstatic for you and your new deal. And I want to say selfishly, and I know Kenny's going to feel this as well, you've always treated us so well in the media. Selfishly for us, it's great to see you around because the interactions we have with you are always so good and so positive. You always give us great stuff. So for us, we're happy to have you around for another 5 years. Just from a journalistic perspective, thanks so much for all the interactions you've had with us. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me, and I really appreciate that. And take care. I look forward to the next 5 years with you, Ken, and with you, Sean. So you guys have been awesome. So take care, guys.
Appreciate that,
Adam. Weekend, Adam. Thank you.
See you later. How awesome was that?
Story of the day. Big story of the day. We had great guests on in the morning, and just awesome insight for Adam. To peel back the curtain there, Sean. I mean, I know we've been talking about this a lot, and I was confident the Jets would get this deal done with Adam Lowry. I just had a feeling that, and I mean, like he told us, that he was a guy that wanted to be the next core member to commit, and he's done that. Is it possible he left some money on the table? Certainly, but he also secured his future in a place where he wants to be, and as I wrote in my column here, in a place where he knows that he is valued tremendously for the role that he plays. And I think it's a great fit for both sides, and it'll be great to see how this develops overall. But again, many thanks for Adam for joining us and sharing those thoughts.
You and I were talking a bit before we got on here and after we heard the news, and we heard pretty early in the day because Elliotte Friedman, who's going to join us here momentarily, gave us a heads up. I was blown away. I remember when you sent me your article before it was posted. That's another perk of the job here. I get to read Ken's articles before they go up, but I was blown away. I'll be honest. I was blown away at the price they got him for. I mean, the fact that they got him for less than Brandon Tanev got paid to go to Pittsburgh, a guy that, and we had this conversation, a guy that Paul Maurice basically refuses to say is his third line center because he basically uses him as a second line center, a guy who more and more we're seeing looks like he's capable of. It used to be he was the guy who tried to shut down the big heavy centermen, the Anze Kopitars of the world, the Ryan Getzlaffs when they were, when he was more in his prime. But Adam Lowry is showing now he can shut down the very best of the players in the league, whether they're heavy or fast or whatever they are. I just think, I've said it in this space before. I thought that if you don't re-sign Adam Lowry, the window closes. So to me, I can't understate the importance of this signing, and I can't understate the job that I think Kevin Cheveldayoff has done here at getting him under this contract. I know there's some great contracts he's signed. The Ehlers is a great value. Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele. I think this has to go right up there in the conversation of the best value signings that Kevin Cheveldayoff has pulled off.
And like we talked about, Sean, the other night on the postgame, if Adam Lowry goes to market, he's the kind of guy that's very difficult to replace because there aren't a lot of those old school players that play that way, that can contribute offense in secondary scoring role, but also play so well and play a hard-nosed game against those high-end players. And the Jets are going. Again, their focus is on right now in the North Division, but we know that next season the Jets are most likely to be going back to the Central Division, where the Colorado Avalanche look very poised to go on to be a very good team for a long, long time. So now the Jets are trying to counter Nathan McKinnon and company with four centers that will most likely include Mark Scheifele, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Adam Lowry, and I would expect David Gustafsson. So I mean, that's the type of depth that you don't see a lot around the NHL. And I think it's an important quality, not only this year, but moving forward for the Jets. We talked about the window a lot recently, and in the last line of my column, the window is wider. The window will be allowed to stay open longer because Adam Lowry has committed.
Let's dig into a little bit more of the importance of him on this team. And I mean, not just on what he does on the ice, but I start thinking instantaneously the relationship that he has with Andrew Kopp and how that has the potential to affect that signing going forward, but also the money that has been fit in here. How's that jigsaw puzzle going to start going together, Ken? Now, what options does it open up to the Winnipeg Jets now that they've got Adam Lowry locked down at this number?
Sure. And I mean, a lot of people are wondering, I mean, what does it mean in the big picture? Well, for me, what it means is that I think that means there will be more room available for Andrew Kopp. I think that the Alex Iafallo number, around four plus going forward with the LA Kings, would his camp be asking for something closer to Andre Burakovsky and 4.9? I think it's going to fall somewhere in that range. I mean, what I do know, Sean, is that as much as Andrew Kopp was very raw in terms of sharing his emotion in how arbitration went, we also know how strongly he feels about being part of this organization and the role that he plays and how he's valued. Andrew Kopp knows that he has played the majority of his time in a middle six role, but he also knows that here's a place where the head coach is not afraid to put him out with the top line if the line needs a boost. He's the Swiss Army knife special. You can play him anywhere and he can help you. Plus, he can play center if you need him to. I mean, that's a huge quality. So I think Andrew Kopp is definitely on the road to getting a raise for sure. But I definitely think I think that the Jets today, by locking up Lowry long term, I think that's another core piece moving forward. And I think that Andrew Kopp wants to be part of that core.
All right, Seattle. Let's figure that out. What
Sure.
does this mean for the Seattle expansion draft?
Well, in the short term, I mean, again, there's some machinations to move around for sure. But for me, Adam Lowry will be protected for sure. I expect that Andrew Kopp will probably be that seventh forward protected, as he should be. That means that right now that would mean Mason Appleton would be on the outside looking in terms of being a player that would be available to the Seattle Kraken and would be very appealing to them. Again, I've said this all along. I expect the Jets to probably make a side deal with Seattle in order to try to keep Appleton because they really value what he's brought to the table and what he's done offensively. I think he can become a 15-plus goal scorer. We talked about Brandon Tanev. I think that he's a great fit with Lowry, and I think that they would like to keep them if they can. Now it's all about what Seattle wants. I mean, do they prefer a defenseman? Do they prefer to go after Appleton? Do they want to make a side deal? What kind of leverage do they have? All important questions to be asked. But what we do know is that Adam Lowry will be protected and he will be part of this core group moving forward for years to come.
All right, let's dig into that later. But first, let's bring into the guy who started this whole kerfuffle today. Elliotte, it's nice to see you do your hair this time on the show. Last time you were straight out of the shower, at least.
I just got out of the shower today, yes.
Got off the Peloton bike.
Yeah, Peloton and shower and dinner. So I could have looked worse than this, but I figured Winnipeg deserved better.
Hey, so tell us what you can. We don't want you giving away all your secrets, but tell us what you can about how this came about and why this came about now.
I think that I think quite honestly, the Jets wanted to keep, like you guys know, the Jets wanted to keep Lowry, and he's pretty happy there. And it was just a matter of finding the situation that they could make it work. Thanks, Jeff. You're really welcome. And Newport, which represents Lowry, they also did Scott Lawton's deal this week. So I think that it's kind of obvious that the two deals were pretty similar. So between the agent having both players and the one in Philly and one in Winnipeg, I think it's pretty obvious to say that they had similar comparables. And I'll tell you one thing that was really interesting. When the tweet first went out saying they were getting close, I had a couple teams text me, "Is it done? Like, are you sure it's getting done?" And I said, "Yeah, I think it is. I just have to be careful in case something goes sideways." And the reaction was "Damn!"
Yeah.
Lowry would have had interest out there. He would have done very well. So I think if the player's happy, and the team's obviously happy. And I think that Lowry wanted to stay, and they wanted him to stay.
Elliotte, what do you think this means for the Jets' window? I mean, Sean and I are both pretty, vehement in terms of this kind of widening their window in terms of that center depth, and we know that, Connor Hellebuck has 3 more years on his deal after this one, same with Scheifele and Blake Wheeler, among others, among the core group. What are your thoughts on that subject?
Well, I think Winnipeg has a great team. I really do. I like the Jets a lot. And, I went back after Monday and I watched Kevin Cheveldayoff's. I didn't really get a chance to watch Cheveldayoff's press conference that closely on Monday, so I went back and I watched it. And what I saw there was a guy who was really frustrated because he knows his team is good and he wanted to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that part of it is you're frustrated because you do all that work, and it's clear there was something he wanted to do that he couldn't get done. But I think it was also, and Jordy Ben's had a good year this year. I think he's a good player. I just saw a guy there who was saying, I know that we have a chance this year to come out of this division, and I really wanted something else I tried here to work. So I think it's clear to me, like, players vote, right? And the player vote is our team is good. Like, you guys have a good team. And I think your coach thinks you have a good team. I think your GM believes you have a good team. And look, if there's anybody who beats the Jets in the playoffs this year, it's going to be a tough 7-game out. You guys have a good team. And I agree with you. I think having Lowry here for 5 years, there's no reason, you guys can't be a contender for 5 years.
The price shocked me, I'll be honest. And so help walk me through this, because I take a look at a player like Brandon Tanev, who left the Winnipeg Jets and is now has signed a contract that's more than what Adam Lowry is going to make. And to your point, we knew that there were going to be teams lining up for his services. I'll say this one again, like what he could do for a team like Edmonton in opening up space for some of their top players. I would have thought teams like that would have been lining up. So I'll be honest.
Are you saying you're surprised, Sean, they weren't tampering with him already?
No. I'm just saying I was blown away to get him at this price. I think that's a really, really good price that they got him on. I was surprised that it went that way. Do you think he left money on the table here? Or is this just a reflection of where the market is at with everything that's happening with COVID?
No, I think he left money on the table. I do. But, Sean, like I always say to people, I've met a lot of people in business, and it's not over millions like the National Hockey League is, but like guys, we work in media. How many people have you seen leave a job for $10,000 more or $15,000 more, and they go back and they say, "Boy, I wish I would have stayed where I was." Like anybody watching this knows someone who's like that. The grass isn't always greener, and Adam Lowry he's going to make a lot of money here. And, he's happy. Obviously, he's happy. He's happy where he is, and they're happy with him. And sometimes I think the most important thing to do, especially now with the way the world's going, is say, you know what, I'm happy in this situation. I want to make it work. And I do think absolutely he left money on the table. But if you're happy, I'm not going to criticize that at all.
What message does it send around the league, Elliotte, when Adam comes up and says it's important to him to have the potential to spend his career in one place? I mean, that's something we don't hear an awful lot of anymore. I mean, not that it doesn't happen in other places, but it certainly doesn't happen as often maybe as it used to.
Well, I think that shows to me you're happy in that place, right? Like you believe in that place. I think your whole ride in the last 3 or 4 years has been really interesting. Like you've had some guys who could have left and signed for a long time. Wheeler did, Byfuglien did. The whole Byfuglien situation turned out to be very unfortunate. But like this, you have guys who want to stay in Winnipeg. Like they've either been traded to the Jets or they started as Jets and they're happy to stay Jets. So there's something, I think there's people who always believe that with Winnipeg, everybody would be running out of there the first opportunity they had, right? Like that's not the case. You guys are no different than anyone else. You have some people who aren't happy, and you have other people who are happy. But you've had a lot of people. And look at the people who've committed to you guys when they could have gone elsewhere. Like I think you have an organization that I like this Sean's headband. I think you have an organization that obviously does things right because you've had a lot of people who stay, and so I say good on them.
This is what I'm trying to figure out, Elliotte, because you're right. When it comes to player retention, the only guys who seem to be leaving are the guys that Kevin Cheveldayoff picks up at the trade deadline, like the Kevin Hayes type guys, and even Stastny left but came back.
Yeah.
So they've got the player retention thing figured out. Why doesn't that translate to being able to nab some high-ranking UFAs? Maybe that's probably saved the Jets in the past, but their ability to round out their team through unrestricted free agency has essentially been non-existent.
Yeah,
Why
Sean,
can't they take?
I don't know if I agree with that, and I'll tell you why. Because, like, you could look at it and say that nobody's come there who's like a big free agent, but Blake Wheeler could have left to me, Blake Wheeler's a UFA sign because he could have walked and he signed as a UFA. Dustin Byfuglien could have walked and he signed as a UFA. Like, to me, like, sometimes it's harder to keep your own UFAs. Like, those are the votes to me that really matter. So, yeah, you could look at it and say, look, we've never signed John Tavares, right, for example. But Blake Wheeler could have walked, he stayed. Byfuglien could have walked, he stayed. It's unfortunate the way that one turned out, but he gave you a big vote of confidence. Like, Ehlers gave you what, 3 UFA years.
Mm-hmm.
Hellebuck gave 2 or 3. I can't remember how many it is. Like, Scheifele obviously gave you some too. Like, to me, that's that's almost more impressive because these aren't mercenaries, right? Like, these are guys who know your organization. They grew up as Jets, and especially younger guys, and they're willing to commit to being Jets. And like that to me is the bigger. It's not the guys who've never been part of your organization that, to me, say what kind of organization you are. It's those who have been part of your organization, and do they want to stay or not? And look, like, you had a pretty high-profile one this year with Line, and that sucks, yes. But you've had a lot of guys who have voted to stay, and I think that says a lot.
What do you think it might mean for Pierre-Luc Dubois in terms of him maybe planting his flag and signing a long-term extension, knowing that Scheifele's under contract and now Lowry's under contract?
Well, I think you've got to be reasonably confident that you're going to sign Dubois, right? Like, I can't imagine that Cheveldayoff would have done that deal without doing a lot of research into it. I mean, you have some built-in intel there, right? Like, I'm sure maybe the father and Cheveldayoff were doing like hand signals. They weren't technically tampering. They were okay. Like, if you think Pierre-Luc will sign an 8-year deal, blink 3 times, like that kind of thing. So I got to think they kind of knew what they were getting into there. And you know what? Like he was going to sign 8 years in Columbus, right? Like, it's not like this guy has got his stars in his eyes for Los Angeles or New York or something like that. Like, I got to think you feel pretty confident.
Elliotte, it means a ton to us that you hopped by here today. And I was going to say, I was joking with Adam Lowry about it earlier, but I was out walking the dog for our first day off from Kenny and Renny in a long time. And here you came and texted us and let us know this was happening, and ruined our day a little bit. But you made up for it, more than made up for it, by showing up here today and filling in the audience on all the stuff that happened. Really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure to catch up with you. And thank you for doing your hair this time for the Kenny and Renny show. My
pleasure, guys. And don't worry, Sean, the Manitoba mosquitoes will be out soon. Your summer's coming, okay?
Have a great weekend, Elliotte. Thanks again.
Guys.
Well, Ken, final thoughts?
Awesome. Just great stuff. Great insight. And I mean, again, this is an important signing for the Winnipeg Jets in terms of what they want to be doing moving forward. Again, I know that this was a week where a lot of people in the fan base were either scratching their heads or wondering what was going on. But I mean, this is another important move in terms of widening that window. And again, we also saw, Ville Heinola jump back into the lineup yesterday. So, and again, we've heard a lot of people saying that, I mean, there's still a chance for him to be an impact player down the stretch run here as well. He'll be getting another few looks. We know Jordy Ben was on the ice today in Winnipeg. The Jets posted some video of Ben being on the ice, so we're going to see him at some point. I would imagine it would be more likely to be next week against Toronto after he has full practice or 2 underneath his belt after a bit of a break. But yeah, I mean, Adam Lowry is an important piece of this team. He's always been a guy, Sean, and you know this already, but always been a guy who is worth more than his numbers. He's a guy that can contribute offensively, but it's all of the other things that he does. Even though he doesn't wear a letter, he's part of the leadership core. He's a guy that plays the game hard. He plays the game the right way. He's a really effective penalty killer. And most importantly, he wants to be in Winnipeg. I mean, he put his money where his mouth is, Sean. He made it clear that he wants to be part of that organization when he would have had every right or temptation to see what else was out there. So I think this is an important signing for Kevin Cheveldayoff and company, and I think it's one where both the player and the organization would be absolutely thrilled by the outcome.
If you guys have been watching us, you know that Kenny is ever the optimist and always looks on the bright side of things. I like to play the devil's advocate. So I'm going to do that here in this situation, Kenny. What's happened here with Adam Lowry signing today means a big chunk of our shows where we talk about the need to sign Adam Lowry is now gone. We can't talk about that anymore. And, part of me is just getting eaten up by that, but not at all. I've been on the record on this. I said this before. I thought it was going to be one of those claims that I made that you were going to fight it a little bit a couple shows back when I said I'm coming out and I'm saying it. If they don't re-sign Adam Lowry, I think it closes the window. I think he's that important. You fully, wholeheartedly agreed. So in our minds, based on our theories of the way the Winnipeg Jets work, this is a really massive day for the Winnipeg Jets. Really massive day for the Kenny and Renny show as we got to spend some time with Adam Lowry on the show, which thank you so much to him for coming on and sharing his thoughts. And awesome job by Elliotte Friedman, who just when I thought I'd heard everything about the situation I needed to, he added 10, 12 other really great points. So want to thank our audience again for showing up. I know we popped up out of nowhere, and here we are up around 170 viewers. Started off a little slow, but I guess that's what happens when you pop up out of nowhere. But it just goes to show you, keep your eyes out for Kenny and Renny, because you never know when we could be hopping on. Really appreciate everyone stopping by. Thank you so much. We'll be back tomorrow on Instagram, 45 minutes before the game, and right here where you see us on the post-game show following that. If you haven't gone to our YouTube page and subscribed, get on it. Go do that right now. Thank you so much. Happy Adam Lowry Day for everybody.